My man, Antjuane, how are you doing, buddy? Thank you so
What's
much for coming on.
what's up, Brandon? Thanks for having me, man. I feel privileged to be on your show. Thanks again. Let's do it.
Dude, so I told my audience a little bit of an introduction on you before we got cracking, but why don't you tell people in your own words who you are and what you're about, my brother?
All right. Well, listen, man. I think I call myself a plantathlete. Plant athlete. So basically, what that means is I believe there's a difference. Me personally, I believe there's a difference between being an athlete and being athletic. And the reason I say that is because there are tons of athletic people, tons. But not everybody takes that leap to become an athlete, meaning really focusing in on one, two, three different types of sporting events. So another example of an athlete is Bo Jackson. That dude was a beast. You know, he played
Oh, yeah.
football, he played baseball. Deion Sanders, same thing. These guys are athletes. Yes, they're athletic, but it's more than just being athletic. So that's kind of where I come from, man. I think, well, at least I hope to call myself not just being athletic, but an athlete. I've played various sports. I've had the pleasure of going over to Thailand to fight Muay Thai. It was my very first fight. I had such a great time. And, you know, anything that deals with competition and whatnot, I'm in it, man. I like to just kind of get involved. So
Yeah.
that's kind of who I am and what I do. And I try to eat right, too, to complement the performance.
Yeah, you do all right in that department, man, and that's what
Thanks, man.
really drew me towards you. So I had a buddy who saw an article, I think, in maybe it was like Forks Over Knives or something like that,
Okay.
and he was like, "Dude, you got to get this guy on your show." He's like, he eats a plant-based diet and he's
Yeah.
absolutely jacked, and everyone's curious because like the whole paradigm around like you got to like crush it with the protein and the meat if you want to put on muscle mass. That
Yeah.
paradigm is very deeply ingrained into our society
Yeah.
and bro science and all that, man. And
Yeah.
so I was so curious about getting you on and finding out, how are you able to create such incredible like energy? I already like feel your
Yeah.
energy just talking to you,
Thanks.
energy and just like such a beautiful physique with just eating a plant based diet. Like I'd love to hear how you transitioned to eating that way and like why you do it and how it works so well for you.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks, man, for those compliments, and shout out to your boy for putting you on, man, and telling you about Forks Over Knives, which, by the way, is a great documentary. So for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, I'd highly suggest you watch the Forks Over Knives documentary. It's on Netflix. But as far as me and my story goes, I was a amateur bodybuilder. I competed on the amateur level, and by the grace of God, I did well. I won first place in all of my shows in my class, except one, which was in New York. And during that time, I had to consume a lot of, and I say had because that's kind of part of the bodybuilding world. You have to consume steaks and salmon and chicken breast and whatnot to get the muscle because that's where the protein is. So for so many years in competing, that's all I did. I ate chicken, steaks, whatever, tunas, turkeys. And after a while, it didn't feel well in my stomach. It just didn't feel like it was complementing my digestive system. I couldn't tell you why, but I started getting tired of eating chicken. It became bland, and even though I would season it up, it was just the consistency of meat started to mess with me mentally. So I wanted to try something different. Had no idea how I was going to transition from meat to plant-based now and still get, as you said, the protein. So I started doing a lot of research. And my research led me to this plant-based way of eating. And I realize now that there's more quality protein in plants than there is in meat. And from what I'm noticing in my performance is my recovery is better. I feel a lot stronger, believe it or not. And my physique it hasn't changed in the sense that I thought it would if I stopped eating meat. Because usually you think, oh, somebody they eat plants, they're little string bean people and they don't have any muscles. Hey, that's not true. That's not true. You can go on a plant-based diet and get your proteins from the legumes, from organic tofu, which are some of the sources I get my protein from, and still maintain your weight and strength. So for me, it was just the transition from bodybuilding to health. And what I mean by health is, again, I just realized within myself that it just didn't feel right. I started paying attention to my body. And as I started paying attention to my body, it was like my digestive system was talking to me like, yo, you can't keep digesting or consuming this amount of meat and feel good about it. So again, I just started doing some research, and like it says in the article, the Forks Over Knives blog, that my friend is who actually put me on to watching another movie on Netflix called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. And looking at that, and then from that movie to the next movie to the next, started doing more research, and I was convinced that plant-based was the way to go. And now I feel a lot better since doing that, since making that transition.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear, has your like protein intake gone down significantly, or are you finding ways to consume the same amount just through plant-based?
Well, the funny thing is, I don't really count. I don't count calories. I don't really count how many grams of protein I'm getting. What I try to do, though, is make sure I am eating enough of a variety of different foods that has protein. And, of course, plants have protein. The green leafy vegetables, they have protein. And I'm going to tell you, man, in the beginning, it was hard-pressed to convince me that, yeah, really, I can get protein through plants. Come on, man. But honestly, with the combination of the plants, and again, like I said, the legumes, the lentils, the organic tofu, man, buckwheat is a complete protein that some people don't know about. I just incorporate a lot of different things in my eating plan. And I think because I use a variety, or I eat a variety of foods, that I'm pretty well covered. And one thing that I think that's often overlooked too, Brandon, is a lot of people think, you eat protein, you get energy, and that's how your muscles work. That's not right. You get the energy from your carbohydrates. Your carbohydrates is what really fuels the muscles for energy. Yes, protein, that's amino acid. It helps for recovery and that kind of thing, and the rebuilding of muscle tissue. I get it. But as far as the energy, as far as the strength, if you will, that comes from carbohydrates. And I'm not knocking protein at all, because it's very important. It's important for cells and tissue repair, yes. But plant protein is a good quality protein for performance and for long-term health.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
I'm going to keep on grilling you with questions, man, 'cause
Yeah,
I'm super curious. So do you really pay any mind to like meal frequency, like how often you eat, or you just eat when you're hungry?
I eat when I'm hungry, and that ends up being about like 3 times a day. And sometimes it's only twice, believe it or not, because I'll have, say for instance, for breakfast, I'll have this breakfast smoothie. But the thing about my smoothie is it's packed with nutrients, so it keeps me full for a pretty long time. And after that, I may have, something for lunch and then something for dinner. So really 2 full whole food meals kind of a thing, and then 1 shake or 1, protein smoothie. And then sometimes I just eat 3 meals a day, just 3 complete meals. So it just kind of depends on how I'm feeling and the day.
Yeah. So are you coaching people up at the moment and eating the same kind of style that you eat?
Well, it's interesting because I don't really go in with the conversation of, hey, you should eat a plant-based diet.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of let it develop in the conversation. And if people ask me what I eat, then I'll share with them what I eat, and I'll let them know what the benefits of eating this way how the benefits can help their performance and help their long-term health. But, at the moment, no, I'm not, what's the word? I'm not initiating conversations, if you will, leading off with, you should be on a plant-based diet, because I want people to come to that decision on their own. But at the same time, I do tell people it's very important to educate yourself on the information as much as possible, so you'll know why you're making the decision. So as far as coaching people on it, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that, I guess. I do discuss it, but I don't lead off with it.
Yeah. So, I was also asking, like, do you create, like, personalized nutrition plans for people?
Well, again, that's kind of where it gets sticky, because I am a certified personal trainer, but legally and technically, personal trainers aren't supposed to do that. They're not supposed to prescribe diet plans, though I'm guilty of it. We've all done it. So at this moment, no, I'm not doing that. I do make recommendations, like loose recommendations, as it relates to food groups. But as far as writing specific plans, no, I don't do that.
Yeah. I'm just curious because there's so much, especially like in the entrepreneur world, like my people listening, there's so much like popularity around things like, you know, different types of fasting and like intermittent fasting,
Sure.
and you know, the paleo diet's like really
Right.
popular. And
Yes.
so all these things are very like systemized, right? Like you either eat in this window of time and you eat these very specific foods, and
Yes.
you eat these very specific portion size. And it sounds like for you, that paradigm like is something that just doesn't exist for you. Like
No.
you're just like more doing all this intuitively. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct, and it's interesting you mentioned intuitive because that's even how I got to this point. Because again, going back to my digestion, didn't exactly know what was going on, but intuitively I figured that this was wrong, and I need to make a change. And I couldn't define it then, but now I can. So, and it kind of goes along with the way I eat. I don't really sit down and say, okay, I need X amount of grams of protein or carbs or fats in this meal. I need to eat this many times a day. Yeah, I don't do that. It's just based on how I feel. And again, just trying to eat around the rainbow of different vegetables as well as different foods, quality whole foods. So that's that. I'm pretty loose with it. I mean, there are specific foods that I do eat pretty much on a regular basis, but I don't I don't have to if I don't have a particular grain that day. I'm not beating myself up about it. You know what I mean? I'm pretty loose about it. I know what I need to. I know kind of how I need to eat, and I try to stick to that throughout the day.
Yeah. So are you still competing in amateur bodybuilding?
No, you know what? I stopped competing. I stopped competing in bodybuilding in '98.
Oh,
1998. Yeah,
yeah.
that was my last show. So
Dude,
no more.
yeah, but you still look very much like a, you know, you have that bodybuilder physique. Is that something that is still pretty important to you? Do you just like to look that way?
Thanks. And yes, I do like the look. I like the bodybuilder's physique. I like that look. And that's just kind of how I've been trained to train, to work out. And that's just how, as a result of the hard work, this is how I look. And what's interesting is, what I'm learning anyway, is it seems like people like that physique, but the work that it takes to get that physique is pretty tough and it takes a long time. But the good thing about what I love about bodybuilding is anybody can have it. You know, anybody can have that physique if you work hard and and you're consistent. You can get that same physique.
Mm-hmm.
And I've
So
just been maintain it.
yeah. So when you're looking, I mean, do you ever like set goals for yourself now? Like, man, I'm trying to like lean up a little bit, or I want to put on some size, or right now you just kind of maintenance mode?
Well, I kind of fluctuate. Sometimes like, oh, I want to put on some more size, and then when my clothes start fitting tighter, I'm like, no, I don't want to put on size because I don't want to buy new clothes or get things tailored or whatnot. But right now, I'm in performance mode because I'm really geared, especially next year, towards doing more CrossFit competitions. So my goal really isn't size; it's more improving my performance and improving the way that I train and the exercise, the different exercise modalities that's a part of CrossFit training. So that's where I am right now. And next year, I'm also thinking about it's kind of a taboo in a sense, but I'm also thinking about going competing in some of these physique competitions. And the reason I say it's taboo because as a former competitive bodybuilder, it's like physique. What? You don't want to do physique? You're a bodybuilder, and I judge bodybuilding shows too. So it's like now you want to do physique. But you know what? Again, it goes back to being an athlete. For me, it goes back to being an athlete. Who knows? In the next couple of years, I might get into jujitsu and start competing in jujitsu, man. I don't know. I always like to push the envelope and do different things. So next year, I'm looking to add physique to the CrossFit competitions.
Very cool, man. Yeah, I feel you. I've done a bodybuilding show in the past too, and I was thinking about doing maybe doing a physique show this year.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
I was like, but the legs, you know, it's just not even a part of the equation during the physique show. That's only a tough thing.
Yeah, well, I think it's fun either way. You know, it's fun just to get on stage, and for anyone who wants to challenge themselves, whether it's physique, bodybuilding, whatever it is, the best thing to do is just jump in it and do it. Get the experience, see how you feel. You may want to do another show, you may not, but at least you've done it, and it gives you something to strive for. It allows you to set a goal so you can actually put down your workout on paper or your diet plan or whatever on paper, stick to it and accomplish it. That's for me, that's what's important about competing. It allows you to set those goals.
Exactly. Yeah. There's so many people that, I've talked to and have this conversation where they're like, well, I just, I don't have that compelling why for like really taking it to that next level. Like, oh, it'd be great to get there,
Yeah.
but why? And like, actually deciding to do a show is like, or, say I'm going to compete in this way, like gives you that strong why and gives you that event that you're moving towards.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like they say, even when you make goals, even if it's in the corporate world, when you put things on paper, it makes a difference. When you write it down, it makes a difference. I think it really affects your focus in a positive way. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Hey man, we don't want to be like the I have like family who talk about, oh, like especially like women in their family, like, oh, I'm gonna be losing this weight this year. I really
Yeah.
need to lose 10 pounds this year, and it's just
Yeah.
like you hear it for like 20 years, it just never happens.
Yeah.
It's because you never put that end point on it, right? You don't make that event like, okay, no matter what, I'm getting it done here. And there's a lot of correlations between business and like health and like setting goals and deciding exactly what's going to happen. But what I think is really cool about like fitness is like it's all in your hands, right? Like there
Yes.
aren't other people playing in affecting you, like you have complete control over what you want to create, and it's like
Yes.
you're just sculpting that piece of art out exactly as you want to. So
Yes, absolutely, man. And like you said, sculpting, it's just like, again, I go back to bodybuilding because, again, that is my foundation. You can sculpt any body into how you want it to look. Realistically, keeping everything, in its proper perspective. You can definitely resculpt your body. And it all starts with the mind. You can be big if you want. You can be in shape if you want. You can be an athlete if you want, or you can be athletic, whatever. It's all in the mind, man. And like you said, it's in our control. Nobody else. There are no other external forces that's preventing us or inhibiting us from achieving what we want physically.
exactly, and I'm assuming are you like a Kai Greave fan?
You know what? He's cool. He's cool. I like when he had his dreads. I think he cut them off recently, right?
He may
I think
have
I can't remember.
that
But
pony.
yeah, the pony. Yeah, what I like about him is he has mad determination. Mad determination. Of course, he can dance, he can move, but his physique is, to me, is phenomenal. I do like him. Yes.
Yeah, he's great, and he's such
Yeah.
a big proponent of like the power of the mind. So I'd love to hear, man, when you're competing and you're trying to compete create the exact physique that you wanted. Did you go through like a lot of visualization, or like how did you use your mind to create that physique that you wanted?
Well, I think a lot of that just kind of came out of just being when I was younger and just really focusing because we used to live in Germany, and what I'm saying by that is that there were a lot of things that I had to kind of focus on being American, being over in Germany, and trying to, get along with and participate with students and whatnot. So I really developed a strong focus at a young age. And I think that just carried over to other aspects of my life. So as it relates to working out and fitness and health and physique, I never really envisioned a look that I wanted. I just wanted to look better than I did that previous week I worked out or the previous show I did. So I never had a specific image in my mind. All I knew is that I wanted to be better than I was the last time I stepped on stage.
Mm-hmm. Did you think about it though? Like, like Arnold used to talk about like slapping some clay on the shoulders and like, I gotta stack some right here. Or,
Right.
or for you, was it just like, I'm just getting bigger and leaner?
Well, for me, it was just how can I improve overall? It wasn't, yes, we all have certain spots we want to bring up. And I would think about, okay, I need to make this part a little bit more defined, or I need to get a little bit bigger here or there. But I think overall, it was just a matter of me just being better. Again, just my physique just needed to look better than it did the last show. And sometimes that was just a matter of what I ate. It wasn't so much what I did in the weight room. It was what I ate that made a difference.
It's awesome, man. Love it, love it. So I'm curious, dude. I tried making a leap into trying out being a vegan I made it about 12 days. But
Yeah.
for me, I don't know, maybe it's just like that period of time you have to go through before it starts to feel normal. But like I had a big like drop off in energy. And even in like the weight room, like I just felt weaker. Did you notice that when you first started, or did you just keep your momentum all the way through?
No, man, it was a huge learning curve for me. And this isn't the first time I tried this. Years ago, I went I started a vegetarian diet for about 8 months or something like that, and I just didn't understand how to do it, and I was eating all the wrong foods, and I didn't have the proper education at that time, so I fell off. And now, even coming back into this lifestyle, in the beginning, it was still a huge learning curve, and my strength did wane a little bit, as did my weight. I just didn't know what to eat, how to eat properly. So in the beginning, yes, there was a little effect as far as my weight and my strength. But once I wrapped my mind around how to do it and what it took to actually to keep up my performance, then it was like whatever that learning curve was, I leaped forward. I don't know how many times forward once I understood how to do it. Because I tell you, man, now my recovery is better and my strength has improved. So something happened.
Yeah. So it was a matter of just like eating more of the right foods.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's exactly it. Eating more of the right foods and incorporating some superfoods into my nutritional plan as well.
So what are some of those money foods to you that like you get excited about? You're like, those are the foods, like I need to have those. Like if you were gonna go on a trip somewhere and I was gonna send you off with like 5 foods, I was like, yo, Antjuane, you can only have 5 foods you get to bring with you. What would you bring?
Oh man, number one would be black seed. I gotta have my black seed. And then after that, I gotta have my goji berries. My goji berries are on point. I need my mixed nuts. Okay, I gotta have the mixed nuts. Those are good for energy and protein and whatnot. After that, I would say what's helpful for me is bee pollen. My bee pollen gives me a lot of nutrients as well. And I guess to top it off, number 5, let's see, it would be, I like dates. I like dates. Yeah, that's good energy food. Good source of sugar too.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah.
What are black seeds? I haven't even heard of those, man.
Yeah, man, that's one of my little secrets, man, right there. That's my little secret. It's actually from a fennel plant. It's called Nigella sativa, I believe, and it's basically from just a plant, a fennel flower, and they're just little black seeds. They look like, they're coarse, and they're smaller than grains of rice, and they provide a lot of health benefits and nutrients.
Putting them on my list right now.
Yeah, put them on your list. Yeah, go do some research on that. Google it. And matter of fact, it's been said that it can cure everything except death. So that's a winner for me, man.
That's awesome, man. I love discovering new foods because I've never even heard that. But man, it's working for you. I'm gonna look it up for sure.
Check it out, man, for sure. Check it out.
Yeah. So are you not like, how hard or how many hours a day are you training? Because it sounds like you don't really worry about like eating like fruits high in sugar because you're training so hard. I'm assuming. Like, how many hours a day are you training for?
Well, when I'm doing the CrossFit training, that's about an easy 2 hours of training, and that's Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, well, basically on Saturday, I'll do another 2-hour type of session where I'll do some running and that kind of thing, and then I'll mix up some weightlifting. So on average, I'm getting about 2 hours a day of training.
It's a lot of training, man. You can eat whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't. Yeah, as far as the fruits and that kind of thing, I've been reading research on both ends. How the fructose is still considered regular. Your body doesn't know the difference. It's still sugar, and it could increase your insulin levels and this and that, and your GI glycemic index and whatnot. It affects it. But my thing is this: if I'm burning a lot of calories like that, I'm not really concerned with what's going into my body based on how I'm eating, because it's pretty much healthy foods anyway. No matter how you cut it, I'm still getting the vitamins and the nutrients. So I don't eat a ton of fruit though. And I think I'm still kind of scarred from being a bodybuilder. It was like, oh, no sugar, no fruits, no, none of that. So, but it's still good for fiber. We still need that. So, 2 hours a week. 2 hours a day. And I don't too much care about my fruit intake. I don't limit it, but neither do I go overboard.
Okay. It's good to know. Good to know.
If that makes any sense.
It does. So, I'm also curious, man. You were telling me before we hopped on this call, like back in the day, I'm assuming you were doing amateur bodybuilding. Like I was like, man, you're jacked as hell. Like, have you ever taken any performance enhancing drugs? And I don't think there's, you know, I'm not someone who's going to say anything is wrong with that, but you're like, no, man, but there's a good story behind that and why
Yeah.
I didn't. And so I'd love to hear about that.
All right, cool, man. I'm going to try to make this quick because it's actually a long story. But to make a long story short, again, I'm a lifetime, 100% drug-free, lifetime athlete, competitor. Never used anything illegal, never used drugs or anything. Even the recreational drugs, I haven't. Now, here's what happened. There was a guy who lived in our neighborhood, and every Saturday night, just not every Saturday night, but a few Saturday nights through the month, I used to see these guys at his house with these huge trophies and these huge dudes with these little shorts and flexing their muscles. I'm like, hey, what is that about? So I talked to this guy's mom, and she told me that her son is a personal trainer. She said, yeah, you should talk to him. I talked to him. He talked to me. He was like, hey, show me your abs. Show me your legs. And he was like, hey, if you do shows, I will train you for free, but just tell people that I trained you. So I'm like, okay, cool. So I hopped on. This dude, he was training cats like Mike Quinn, like back in the day, the old school bodybuilders, Mr. Olympia athletes. And at that time, I didn't know who these guys were. These were just some huge dudes. And I was rotating in these sets with these guys. So as the day got closer to the show that I said I'd do, I went into his house, and it was me, him, Quinn, and some of these other big dudes, and we had, as I call it, the steroids conversation. And they were telling me about anabolic steroids and this and that, and he didn't say you have to do it. He was letting me know if you want it, we have it, kind of a thing. And so at that time, I knew about steroids. I didn't know all the ins and outs, but I knew enough to know that I would never do it. Even playing college football, there were guys who did it, and I was never tempted to do it then, and I've always made the decision not to do it. So sitting in this living room with these guys, you know, the pressure wasn't on, but the pressure was on, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So even in that moment, I said, you know what, I'm not going to do it. And I told the guys I'm not going to do it. I never did it. They never held it against me. They were like, you know what, that's great. You have a physique. You can go far anyway. You really don't need it. We just thought if you wanted to, we have it, kind of a thing. That's kind of how that story went down. So even though I had an opportunity from some, I guess, professional guys, if you will, to take it, I still turned it down because I believe God has given me this ability, or at least the ability to train hard to establish this kind of physique without using that kind of enhancer. So that's pretty much the long story short version of it. There was an opportunity that I had to. There was an opportunity for me to do it, and I just did not do it because I never thought it was worth it. And I'm thankful that I've never done it, and I'm thankful that I had the courage to say no.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious, man. Guys who you're competing against back in the day, though, when you're doing amateur shows, like you said, you're still crushing and you're beating them. I mean, were you just doing natural shows, or were you doing like overall shows?
No, man, I was doing NPC shows, National Physique Committee shows. Yeah, the NPC, those guys, they weren't testing back then. I don't think they test now. I don't think they test, man. So yeah, even then, I started off doing NPC. I've only done NPC shows, as a matter of fact. I don't think I've done a natural show yet. I've only done NPC shows. And I tell you, man, a lot of it had to do with my diet, and seriously, the trainer, his name is Mike Greenspan. He really hooked it up. He put me down on this diet. He showed me how to train. He was my trainer. And he just took me under his wing. He taught me about training, how to be a personal trainer, and, you know, how to build this physique. And he did a great job with helping me and educating me. And from there, I kept learning more and more, and, you know, it paid off.
Yeah. Would you say he's your biggest influence into like creating the physique that you have now?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. If it wasn't for him, I don't know how I would have gotten into bodybuilding and competing or any of that. Absolutely.
So what are some of the fundamentals around like how he teaches? Like, does he teach you, you know, doing the bodybuilding like slow, eccentric, concentric contractions? Like, what is kind of the modality that he uses around lifting?
Well, again, this was back in 1995 or 6, somewhere around there. And at that time, you know, guys, they were just taking as much weight as they could and just trying to move it as fast as they could, right? Mm-hmm. This was just heavy weight. Well, he was like, okay, just take your time. He focused on form and technique. That's what was important, form and technique. Control the weight. So it wasn't a matter of how much weight you lift. It was whether or not you're able to control the weight that you lift. Mm-hmm. So, and for me, that stuck because for me, it made sense. It's like, do it right. It's not a matter of just throwing on weight just to move it. No, do it right. Take some of the 45s off or 25s, whatever. Take it off and focus on your technique and focus on form. So that is what was really helpful for me, and that's what he taught: form, technique, slow motion, and not super slow, but controlled movement through the lift.
And so did you notice when you started training that way, like you really started to experience that muscle hypertrophy?
I did, yeah. That, and again, the way I was eating and the way we trained, and we did the split workouts, and he had it down, man. He had it down to a science. He really helped me out a lot.
So now you're doing the CrossFit though. So I'm assuming your training regimen is completely different now, right?
Completely different, man. This is so new to me. I've never done Olympic lifting. This stuff, your hand position and all this stuff is crazy, but I really enjoy it, man. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I feel like you're one of those like freak athletes where like you just excel. You probably hopped into it and you're a little bit of natural, I'm going to assume.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I'm going to assume you're a little bit of a natural when you got in there.
Well, yeah, it didn't come as difficult to me as it didn't come as hard as I thought it would. And plus the coaches, like, yeah, they said the same thing. Yeah, man, you're a natural. You got it. What it would take, 3-4 weeks for somebody to learn, you got it in the second, third day of working out, whatever. Well, here's the thing. It goes back to the mind again, having that proper mindset and focusing on what you're doing and really paying attention to what you're doing. If you can do that, and not just in sports and athletics, even in your own personal life, whether it's in a relationship or whether it's in business, if you really focus and have a great attitude, think positive thoughts about what you're doing, I think the outcome will be positive. And that's how I went into CrossFit. And the only reason that I wanted to do CrossFit is because I wanted to go to the games. I want to try to get to the CrossFit games, It's like, I'm not going to CrossFit to get in shape. No, I want to go compete on that level. So when I got there and the guys showed me these different weightlifting techniques or powerlifting and Olympic lifting techniques, I'm like, oh man, I've never done this kind of thing before. So it was a bit of a challenge for me. But I tell you what, man, I stuck with it, and I'm happy I did. It's a different type of training, and I look forward to doing more shows next year.
Yeah, dude.
Man.
I'm looking forward to watching you, and I'm sure you will be at the games, man. You seem to have that kind of unstoppable mindset, and I'm
Thanks,
sure you'll
man.
get there.
It's so tough. Wow. Once I started getting involved and I realized how much competition it is, not just competition, these guys are beasts, men and women. It's just a crazy level of competition. I'm thinking, you know what? It'll be nice to get there. And if I do get there, I'll be so happy because the competition is just mad crazy. Mm-hmm. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. One competition at a time.
Absolutely. So, man, I want to ask you, if someone's listening to this, like, man, Antjuane seems like a cool dude. Like, I'd love to look like him because I'm gonna have I'm gonna have your image in the little design shot I have for this specific episode.
Oh, cool! Thanks.
Yeah, man. And so everyone's gonna be like, yeah, I'd love to look like Antjuane. So, like, what if they were gonna take on a plant-based diet? Would you suggest that people just hop straight into it, or do you suggest that maybe like they slowly, gradually do it? Like, how do you advise someone to do that?
I think, you know what, I'll leave that up to each individual because some people can stop something cold turkey and pick something else up. Some people can't. They'll need a transition. So each individual has to make up their mind as to how they would do it. But I definitely suggest, if you're going to do it, understand that there's going to be a learning curve and you may not get everything right the first couple of weeks, first couple of months even. But don't be discouraged. If this is what you want to do, don't be discouraged. Again, I go back to saying get as much information as you can on plant-based eating and the reasons why. That's so important, the reason why you're doing it. And once you start reading about how plants helps the body from a cellular level, long-term health, prevention of heart attack, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and all these things, diabetes, all these, when you understand the reasons why, it kind of helps with your focus. So someone who's doing it, if you have the mindset where you can just stop something cold turkey, like stop eating meat, cold turkey, or animal products, and do it. If you're a person who needs that transition, that's fine. Just transition slowly. Do like they say, meatless Mondays, and then go meatless Tuesdays. So just kind of slowly transition into it. But the bottom line is, if a person decides to make this transition, they're doing it. It's going to be better for their health long term. So no matter how you do it, if you want to do it, get it done. Doesn't matter how.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, man. And so, would you say what are some of the best resources out there? I know you talk a little bit about nutrition on your website. What would you recommend?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I actually need to start paying more attention to my website and updating that, and putting more information. So some of the things that I recommend, I'll go back to those documentaries because they're easy to watch. Again, on Netflix, you have Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. You have Forks Over Knives. You have Food Matters. Those three are really good. Oh, one more, Hungry for Change. I usually recommend that one for women, and when you watch it, you'll kind of see why, because the leading person in that documentary is a woman. So, and I think they can relate to that. So those are the four that I would really recommend: Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, Forks Over Knives, Food Matters, and Hungry for Change. Other than that, there's a lot of reading material out there that's important. The China Study, that's huge. Dr. T. Colin Campbell, he's done a phenomenal job as far as his research as it relates to plant-based eating. There's another book called Mad Cowboy. That's another great one. Howard Lyman is his name, and he also wrote a book called No Bull. Those are three books: The China Study, Mad Cowboy, and No Bull. Those are three good books to kind of start with as far as reading about plant-based diets and plant-based eating.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I didn't tell you this, but I always like to, I'm all about the power of the mind and accessing flow states. That the state of mind when we get in our zone and the whole world just disappears except for that immersion right in front of us.
Yes.
And so I always ask guests to tell me a story they've had where they experienced like incredible flow, where they're locked in, performing better than they ever have before. Do you have a story like that, man?
Yes, I do, man. I was in high school, and it was for the semifinal state wrestling championship. And the guy that I had to wrestle, he had years of wrestling, whatnot. I'd only been wrestling for 2 years. No big deal. So I knew I had to go up against him in the semifinal match. So I was watching him the night before. So I was watching this guy, and I just locked in on winning. It didn't matter how good that guy looked, how well he performed. I was going to win. So the next morning on the bus ride to the match, I guess a couple of my teammates, they were trying to talk to me, but I was really so focused, man. I was so focused that I was kind of drowning everything out. Then my coach, but I do remember hearing my coach saying, "Oh, he's in the zone. He can't hear you. He's in the zone. He can't hear you." And I literally was so focused, and I told myself, "You will not lose this match," because I wanted to go to the state. I wanted to wrestle in the state championship match, and I knew that guy was the one standing in my way. I tell you what, man, got to the arena. It was an incredible event, incredible match. And again, by the grace of God, I won that match, and I advanced to the state final championship wrestling match. And that was one of a few times where I was just so focused in the zone that it didn't matter what happened, I was not going to lose.
Yeah.
So yes, there is definitely truth to that. And I try to initiate that and tap into that when I come up against competitions.
Yeah. And you talk about from the grace of God. Do you almost feel like sometimes when you're in that focus, in that zone, in that flow, that it's almost like it's you performing, but like it's almost like there's an unconscious, something else takes over?
Yeah, absolutely. There's like they said, we use less than 10% of our brain, and I do believe if we're able to tap into a higher percentage of that, we can perform and we can achieve things that we normally wouldn't do. Just like the lady who can lift a car because her child is trapped under the wheel of a car. Where did that energy come from? It's in us, but we don't always tap into it. Yeah, it's adrenaline, it's this and that, but we still have the ability to accomplish things that are so we would consider tough, but until we tap into that part of our mindset and that focus, we don't experience it. But when we do, yeah, we experience it. Again, the lady lifting the car because her child is trapped under the tire or in the fender or whatever the case may be. We've heard those different types of stories. So that just lets me know that there's more to our thinking and our focus than we know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, it's a lot of fun. And the research they've shown, it's like we actually do use all of our brain, but the thing is, we're usually in our conscious brain, which is beta brainwaves, where we can where we can process about 7 bits of information per second, versus when we get on the unconscious, what you're talking about, we can process up to like 40 million bits of information with a second, which is
That's
crazy. And then when it comes to the physical body, we're able to we usually use about 60% of our capacity for strength, really highly trained athletes are able to get up to like 80%. But when you get in those flow states of like almost like fight or flight, like you said, like the woman picking up the car, like you're able to max it out at like, you know, that 100% where like, you know, your muscles might almost rip because you're performing at a level you never perform at except for those like few times in your life where you get into that immense flow. So
Oh, that's great information, man. Thanks for bringing me up to speed on that. I tell you what, but yeah, you're right. If we hit max, think of if we were operating on maximum every time. And here's what I was thinking: what if two people, two fighters, or two competitors, you know, one-on-one deal? What if they were both operating at 100% maximum ability? What would the outcome be? Then you know what? To me, it comes down to will, because you can't measure the will of a man. You cannot measure that. You may have 100% brain capacity and performance. But if the will of the man or woman is stronger than the competitor, the person who has the greater will win.
absolutely, man. That mental strength, that what I call emotional fitness that we develop in our mind is so powerful for any goal that we want to achieve. You know, it's just a matter of like, it is a muscle. Like many people don't understand that will or that emotional fitness that we have. Like a lot of people think like, oh, you either have it or you don't. But no, it's something you condition and you can build this as stronger and stronger. I'm sure you've seen all the years you've been competing over and over again. You've just built this emotional fitness stronger and stronger along with your physical fitness, which is why you can perform at such a high level.
True, absolutely, man. And like you said, years. You know, it takes years, but it doesn't mean, oh, I'm such and such age, it's too late, the time has passed. Oh, no, anybody can do it. We all have a brain. We all can tap into that capacity, as you're mentioning, and be great performers at whatever. And it doesn't have to be sports. You know, it can be anything else. But it's usually the physical aspects of competition or performance that we usually highlight. But I believe that's the same thing can happen in relationships. You know, I don't think it always has to be a physical manifestation of the power of our minds. I think it can just, like you did mention emotional as well, but I do believe that as well. It can be emotional, you know, emotional connections and emotional growth.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I love it all, man. I can talk about this stuff for days. I'm sure you could as well. But, dude, I'll let you run. And please, will you really quick let my audience know where could they find out more about you?
Okay, so my website is, of course, www.actionfigurefit.com, actionfigurefit.com. And then my Facebook page is facebook.com/actionfigurefit. So those are the best places I would imagine that people can grab a hold of me. Facebook and my website. Facebook.com/actionfigurefit and actionfigurefit.com is the website.
Beautiful. All right. We'll be watching you, Antjuane, and we'll see you in the CrossFit Games soon, buddy.
Man, I hope so. Brandon, thanks so much for this interview. Thanks for the time, man. You have incredible energy yourself, man, and I appreciate it. I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Take care, brother.
Thank you. You got it, my man. Thanks.